Hi, this is Kanchi, and you are listening to The Speak Kanchi. What is self realization? What is the need for it? Who is a realized man? And what are his qualities? And how is he to be recognized? So, this is a very interesting question that I have been asked, and I would love to get into this and go deeper into this, and hopefully, we will learn something today, something we can meditate upon, contemplate upon, and use this for self study to get to know ourselves better. So let's get into this. What is self realization? So there are two aspects to this. If you just look at it, there is the self and then there is realization. So it implies that there is something to be realized, right? That the self needs to be realized. So for the self to be realized, we need to understand what the self is, right? So let's try to understand what the self actually is. Or let's start with this. Let's start with what the self is not. The self is not the body. So when we say self, what do we really mean? First thing is, when we look at ourselves and I say, I am this, I am that, I feel happy, I feel sad. So as soon as we start speaking, before even speaking, there is a thought and there is a thought process. And even before the thought process, there is the experience of the self, right? The presence, the fact that I exist, the fact that I am here. How do we know that I am here? Now that you are listening to this, how do you know you are listening to this? Some sound wave is hitting your ears and then it is being processed by the brain, and then you decipher it, and then you understand the meaning. But prior to all of this, prior to the sound hitting, the sound wave hitting you know your ears, before the processing of the sound, before the processing of the meaning of the sound, you already know that you exist. For something to reach you, first there has to be you, right? So for something to reach me, for me to comprehend something, first there has to be a me. First there has to be an I. I am comprehending. I am listening to this. I am seeing this. I am trying to understand this. So the root of all these things is I am. I am. I am. I am. I am. So the sense of I amness, the sense of beingness, the sense that I exist, this presence, this is what we call the self. It is as simple as that. This is the self. This is the self. This is the self. So then, where is the conflict? Where is the confusion? Why do we go around imagining ourselves to be the body, to be the mind? The mind comes later. The mind appears to the self and then disappears. Right? The mind is nothing but thoughts. So there is somebody who is witnessing the thoughts. So the thoughts appear to this self. Right? They appear to the self and they disappear. Right? In the same way, the body also appears to the self. The world also appears to the self. The body does not exist in deep sleep. You might say, yeah, it exists because you see it lying down. The body is on the bed when you wake up. It comes back into your awareness. But as long as you're not aware of it, let's assume that it does not exist in your awareness. There is no way for you to hold it. There is no way for you to experience the body if it does not appear in your consciousness? Can you experience something that is not in your consciousness? For example, you're sitting in your home, in your car, wherever you're sitting. Can you experience the heavens? Can you experience another part of the world? Right? You can. When you think about it, when you imagine it, when you dream about it, you can have a sense of experience. Right? But as long as it is in your consciousness, as soon as it is not a part of your consciousness, then you can no longer experience it, whatever it is. So just the way you cannot experience the body in deep sleep, you don't experience the world in deep sleep. The world and the body appear to you. The self is prior to the world. The self is prior to the body. The self is prior to the mind. So what? So what is self-realization then? Is it to realize that I am the self? But you are the self. No man will say I am not the self. Right? When I ask somebody, who are you? First thing they do is I am. I am this, I am that, I am this. So the I am exists in everybody's answers, in everybody's experience. I am exists. So that is the self. But it is misidentified. So when you ask somebody, who are you? They say, I am a lawyer. I am a doctor. I am an engineer. I am a man. So see the misidentification. Right? I mean, in the sense of speaking, it is okay. But the deep identification with these things, that I am the body. Right? You never say I am the car. So if something happens to your car, of course you will feel bad about it, but you will go get some insurance money and then you repair the car and it's done. You don't hold on to it. You don't have a sense of identity with the car. You don't imagine yourself to be the car. You are sitting in the car. Right? Same thing with your clothes. You wear your clothes. If something tears, you don't identify the cloth, the shirt as yourself. You say, this is my clothes, this is my dress. You take it off, you wear something else. In the same way, the body is also another instrument we use. The body is also a sheath, like a car, like a piece of cloth. This also is another instrument. But we identify with the body. A deep identification exists with the body. And we go on saying, I am, you don't say I am the body, but you experience the world from a body point of view, from a body perspective, from a body-centric perspective. You experience the world as a human being. Well, there is nothing wrong with being a human being, except the fact that you are not a human being. You're not a man. You're not a woman. You're not just a human being. You're not just a woman. You're not just a man. You're so much more than that. So this misidentification and imagining yourself to be limited, misidentifying the self with the body, that the self is the body. You're creating limitations to yourself by saying the self is the body. I am a man. You're limiting yourself. So a man is prone to old age, disease, death, depression, all these things. Right? And then you suffer because of this identification with the body. As long as you imagine yourself to be the body, you will experience all the pains and the miseries of the body. Suppose you realize that you're not just the body, you're so much more. You're beyond the 5 elements. So the body is made of 5 elements. That is, we all know this. The body is made of earth, fire, air, the skyline, and water, right? So we are so much more than that. We are not just a mixture of these five elements. You are not just this. You are not the body. Which body are you? Suppose you say, no, no, I am the body. Which body are you? Because the cells are regenerating every second, every moment. Millions of cells are being regenerated. The body that you think you are does not exist the next moment. The body of your childhood does not exist now. It is long gone. It has evolved into something else. The body of your youth will be long gone. The body of your old age will be long gone. It keeps changing every moment. So what are you holding on to? Only the sense of identity. You are only holding on to the sense of identity of I am the body. The same way, mind is nothing but thoughts. And you are holding on to the sense of identity that I am the mind. Nobody says I am the mind. But you're so deeply identified with the games the mind plays. So deeply identified with this ego, with this imaginary creature you have created in your mind. I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. So much such deep attachment towards that image. Completely, it is false. The image is nothing but an illusion. Absolute mirage. There is not an iota of truth in it. Not an iota. But you hold on to this. You do not hold on to the substratum, but you hold on to what appears on the substratum. So let me give you an example. In the night you wake up suddenly and then you see a snake in front of you. You panic, you get scared, you scream, and then you go and switch on the lights. What happens when you switch on the light? You see that it wasn't a snake. It was a rope. So where did the snake go? Or where did the snake disappear? The snake never existed there in the first place. It was always your misidentification. The rope always existed. But you mistook the rope to be the snake. And this created all the fear in you, all the panic and anxiety and whatnot. So the snake is unreal. The rope is real. The illusion of snake, the illusion of the world that you create, your ideas about the world, your ideas about yourself is false. The self is the rope. Ideas, the world, objects of the world all exist on the self. They are superimposed on the self by your lack of knowledge or lack of insight. That is why you misconstrue, you misunderstand, you look at the rope and imagine it to be a snake. You get what I'm saying? So you can say this is self-realization. Realizing that you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not object of the senses, but you are the self. Right? Now we have come to understand what the self is not. Right? To some extent we can say with clarity. And if we really look at this in a much deeper level, we try to understand this by meditating on these ideas, by contemplating upon these ideas and really studying this at a minute level. We realize that the self is not the mind. The self cannot be limited to thoughts. The self cannot be limited to an object of consciousness. Then, what is the self? Now we kind of understand what the self is not. But what is the self? Is the self just a void? Is the self just a deep darkness? Is self just pure awareness? Of course, the self is awareness. It is pure consciousness. The self is formless. Form is created by thought. Form is created by movement of energy. The self is the origin of this energy. All energy arises from the self and subsides in the self. Energy is modified consciousness. Unmodified consciousness is the self. That which moves about is temporary. That which moves about with a force. We know how things are. So if you throw a ball in the air, the ball comes and hits the ground, and then in a couple of bounces it falls flat and it loses all momentum. In the same way the universe exists. The universe exists like a ball that has been thrown into the air. As long as the momentum exists, it will continue bouncing. But there will come a time when there will be silence, when the ball will stop bouncing and it will subside. Just the way thoughts bounce around in your head and they subside every night in deep sleep, and you have a good night's sleep because all thoughts disappear, all emotions, all forms of energy manifesting with such aggravated force completely subside in deep sleep. So deep sleep is the greatest peace known to man. Sleep is the best. Without sleep no man can exist. It is underrated because we don't give it enough importance. We think sleep is okay, but we need to get things going. But without deep sleep you cannot do anything, right? So in deep sleep the whole world, everything manifested submerges and subsides into the self. So this is happening in a state where you're not completely aware, not in your conscious state. It is happening in a very deeply unconscious state. It's happening in a state of inertia. So now imagine all this happens. The mind becomes calm, the mind rests in the self. All the modified thoughts subside, and there is only unmodified consciousness. You do not experience content of consciousness, but you experience yourself as unmodified consciousness, the formless consciousness, formless awareness. You are that. You are that formless consciousness. You are that consciousness which is beyond all qualities. Qualities of inertia, qualities of aggression. You're devoid of all these qualities. You're beyond all these qualities. For any quality to exist, for any guna is like a nature, it's like an essence of certain nature. So for that thing to exist you need to have mind. Only with movement in consciousness can qualities exist. Only with movement in consciousness can form exist. You are that which is devoid of forms and qualities. You are absolutely pure. And when I say pure, you are beyond the concept of purity and impurity. You are beyond the ideas of form and formless. You are beyond the ideas of immortality and mortality. You are absolutely eternal. Your true nature is eternity, immortality. Your true nature is pure light. You are that. This this is realizing the self. Knowing who you are. Knowing who I am. I am the self. There are no divisions in the self. So there is no question of yourself and myself and God's self. There is only one self. Just like there is only one air. Is it one air? No, there are no two airs. Right? There is no two skies. Can we say there is only one sky? We can say there is only one sky. But the fact is, even that sky does not exist. Right? It is absolutely formless. In the same way, you are absolutely formless. In this state, you are not different. You are non-different from God. What we call God is the origin of all energy, is the origin of all consciousness, of all content of consciousness. You are that. You have always been that. You always existed as that. But you consider yourself to be limited. That is Maya. That is illusion. That is bondage. Know that you are the self. That is liberation. That is self-realization. So what are the qualities of a self-realized man? Well, there is really no way to judge a self-realized man. How can you say someone is realized and someone else is not realized? There is no hierarchy in realization. A realized man does not see the world. A realized man does not experience the world as different from himself. He experiences the world as he is, in purity. So there is no other for a realized man. So when there is no other for the realized man, there can be no fear. There can be no aggression, no anger, no hatred for such a man. We are not afraid of ourselves. Right? A man like this is desireless. He abides in desirelessness. He is desireless, absolutely desireless. What can you desire? In a dream, when you see that you're dreaming, what fruits in the dream would you like to eat? You don't care about the fruits in the dream because you know they are absolutely unreal. It is of no value to you. It could be $1 billion. It could be the most beautiful girl in the world. But you know it is unreal. So it has no sway over you. So a realized man is absolutely free. He is free from desires. He is free from anger. He is free from lust. Because he is awake. He is awakened from the dream, from the waking dream. Nothing can have its way over him. He is absolutely free. That is the first. That is the first sign of a realized man. That he does not crave, he does not hate. He has no craving for the desires of the world, for the objects of the world. He does not crave for anything. He does not hate anything. He does not repel anything away from him. Neither does he want to attract anything towards him. He is beyond those ideas. He is least interested in the fame, all the fame in the world. He is least interested in all the money in the world. Such a man exists. And how is he to be recognized? Well, there is no real way to recognize a realized man. Because he's just like you and me. Externally, he goes on about his business. If he's a carpenter, he's going to continue being a carpenter. If he's a dentist, he's going to continue being a dentist. If he's a singer, an actor, he's going to continue being an actor. Whatever he is meant to do, he will continue. The fact of realization does not change anything in your external world. The realization changes a man completely internally, because you're no more a man. You're no more a god. You're even beyond the concept of God and man. You know, you're in deep bliss. You experience great freedom. But this freedom is not something, this freedom is not something you can touch. You could see the joy on his face, no doubt. You will experience peace around him, no doubt. And that, I can say, is the number one sign. If you are around a person, you feel a great peace around him. You feel a great joy around him. You experience silence around him. Maybe then, you can say he's a realized man. No doubt about it. But externally, there are no signs. When a person is not the body, what sign will the body give? It is just freedom, it's just joy. It's like being around a child. Children are born self-realized. Their ego hasn't sprouted yet. So the joy you feel, experience being around a child, the love and the peace you find yourself in when you're around a child is similar to spending a time with a realized master. But there are no guarantees. There is no guarantee that he's going to execute, some, he's going to speak well, he's going to have a great aura. None of these things. These are all things that we impose on, our messiahs. He might not even be a messiah. He might not care for being a messiah. It's like, just imagine yourself in a dream and you wake up in the dream. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in the dream when you wake up? It does not matter. It absolutely does not matter. So I hope you have enjoyed this session. And if you have any doubts, or if you want to talk about it further, if you want me to talk about something in specific, please feel free to get in touch with me. Let's contemplate upon this. Let's meditate on this idea of the self, and let's try to understand, let's try to dwell deeper into our own selves and look at this root of the ego and what is it that we call the self. Thank you and goodbye.